This is a public service announcement. If San Francisco is America's, quote, Sodom, unquote, then New York City is her, quote, Gomorrah, unquote, or maybe it's Hollywood or Washington, D.C. No one mistakes a city synonymous with political liberalism for more than a century as having much in common with the Bible Belt. Yet the recent hullabaloo of New York City Mayor Eric Adams during an interfaith breakfast proclaiming he, quote, doesn't believe, unquote, in the separation of church and state, and further stating, quote, don't tell me about no separation of church and state. State is the body, church is the heart. You take the heart out of the body dies, unquote, has caused some in the Big Apple to unravel.
Despite his background as a police officer, until now no one has considered the recently elected official as anything other than your typical big city Democratic liberal. The New York City media and political establishment purposefully glossed over his employment background and Christian identity as unfortunate but trivial inconveniences. Being a former police officer and Adams's stance that New York needed to get tougher on crime was more vexing than his religious disposition. They could dismiss the former with a condescending, secular shrug. How many black people do you know who consider themselves secular? Atheist? Agnostic? Don't studies regularly show that more older black people than almost any other racial group consider themselves Christian and attend church services with greater regularity? They might say. This liberal cabal, including of course the New York Times, was more interested in Adams as being another ideological trophy for racial equity, diversity, inclusion. Wasn't he sufficiently liberal in all other aspects which are core components of their secular orthodoxies, pro-abortion, pro-LGBTQ, pro-affirmative action, pro-government, pro-anti-racist?
But now they have a major problem with their duly elected official. The New York Times pointedly noted the unanimous reaction of those at the breakfast, the immediate, almost hysterical disapproval of the religious arm of wokeism. A female rabbi seemingly more preoccupied with LGBTQ activism than actually adhering to the Judaic faith she allegedly represents, cited his remarks as, quote, alarming, unhinged, and dangerous, unquote. The local executive director of the ACLU described her reaction as being, quote, speechless, unquote. I do believe in the ACLU and its mission, but I'm not above rattling their cage from time to time either. Intellectually, I believe in a separation between church and state, yet I'm struck by the biblical passages asserting that after Jesus returns, he will reign from Jerusalem for 1,000 years. There ain't going to be no separation of church and state then. Regardless, who would have thought before the last week of February 2023 that Christians would be lucky to have a mayor like Eric Adams in a city like New York City? Unless this is some extreme swerve, we have a man with at least some godly beliefs running the Big Apple. Holy Batman, there's hope for Gotham, which is far more than you can say about San Francisco and the governor of California. Thank you for listening.